Welcome to the View Looks Good podcast with Passos and me, Kim Van Niekerk. We are touring through everything that it means to live and work nervous systems first and sharing it all with you here. New to season 4 is an invitation to start this episode with a brief moment for you. Enjoy the music and we'll meet you on the other side.
I had the wonderful privilege this morning to be invited by the school my daughter goes to learn how to work with and support our children when they're going through big emotions. I didn't really know what to expect from this, but they did such a lovely workshop where they invited somebody from the NHS to explain very simply what's happening within a child, understanding the different evolutions of the brain from reptilian to mammalian to human, and then showing the process of when we get to that stage of having those big emotions, or our children having those big emotions, what do they need and what's happening. And when they're in that state, because that's what we notice, we just notice them when they're in that state. Either they're blowing up, they're tantruming, or they're going so quiet, or they're clinging on us, or something along those lines. That's what we see. And she's saying, well, that just gives you the indicator that your child has gone into their reptilian brain. Their nervous system is activated to that fight, flight, freeze. And when they're in that state, they can't be reasoned with in that moment. They need to have their nervous systems regulated, which is so obvious given the work we do. We know that. We know this is what we're doing with adults. But yet somehow we have this unrealistic expectation from our children to be amazing at this, right? Like, you should just get this. I will tell you to stop, and you should just be able to stop. And the facilitator of this, who did the presentation, was wonderful in sharing, like, the way to do it is first help them regulate, then relate, and then you can get to their reasoning, because that's when, once they've been related with, that's when they're in their safety state, and that's when you can reason with them. And it's really not about the child telling them what to do. It's about becoming aware of yourself as the parent in that moment. What's happening in your own nervous system? What are you doing? And also, how are you role modeling to your child ways to regulate? Because we just expect them to do it. But when we get frustrated by something happening in our lives, do we show our children how to step out, regulate ourselves, so that we can come back to this? Or do we allow our emotions to get bigger? And we have these wonderful masks where we get louder, get more frustrated, we vent, but to a kid that just sounds like anger. It doesn't sound like rage. They don't understand the venting. We perhaps turn to different substances or different foods or something like that, just to try and numb it. We disassociate from the feeling. Like, those kinds of things happen probably more often than not, because we aren't living consciously about what state we're in. And so I am in deep gratitude for the school for organizing this. I'm in deep gratitude that the NHS has developed workshops that can go into schools to teach parents about this. I loved, because I just think it's so apt, that we don't put all the pressure on the children to get it right. We learn how to do it, and we role model it, and also take the pressure off of, like, this isn't something that they're supposed to just get. Just like it would be to ride a bike or learn how to read, we plant seeds, you do different exercises in times where it's interesting, where it's fun, where we're feeling safe, and with time they learn how to do this. Compared to, and I love my upbringing, but my childhood and what we understood, and the teachers that we had around, and the other adults, they didn't teach us how to do that. They said, stop crying because you're a big girl. Don't become a burden on society. Like kids who were quiet, who didn't speak out loud, but when really quiet, they were like, "Oh, they're such good kids," as if to say other kids weren't good, and also they weren't good kids. They were equally dysregulated. All they did was learn a technique that would stop them from getting further abuse, or shouting at in a way. And so I want to bring this topic on the table for us today, Kim, around I suppose the what what can we as parents learn to do to support our children in regulating? What kind of things spiral us out? How do we become aware and notice when we are dysregulated? Because I think sometimes we don't even know, we're not that tuned in to even know. But I want to talk about how do we know, become aware of that so that we can work on ourselves, and in so doing, we support our child in that specific moment. But on a more long-term scale, we support them to develop the tools to be able to become a more emotionally regulated and more satisfied human being. More equipped, I want to say. The satisfaction comes from I'm resourced. I know what to do in this situation. So I don't get stuck.
Can't tell you that I've got like 50 things popping up, being like, where do I start? Maybe like the first place is to start in sharing your enthusiasm and gratitude for the work that we're talking about, reaching schools and reaching parents through schools. Like, what an amazing resource the NHS are offering. I just want to like shout it from the rooftops. I don't think you could possibly put a value on how enormous that is. First of all, to equip parents in understanding their children more clearly. Like you say, these are not good kids, bad kids. I mean, one of the things that I'm constantly reminded of is like children who struggle to focus. There's a lot of stuff starting to come in research wise that's picking up on the correlation between nervous systems being dysregulated and our ability, our struggle to keep attention and keep focus. And if parents knew this more and teachers knew this more, that this is not, I mean, I've had conversations with teachers where they just say, there's a problem here, they need to focus more. And and like that it's looking at the symptom and not understanding the root behind it of like what's causing that. It's just like a label of you are not focusing, focus harder, like it's something you can be in control of, the same way like assuming like a child could be in control of a meltdown or in control of their volume sometimes, or the pace at which they're doing things. Like, it's so interesting to stop and reflect on the nervous systems of our children actually being dysregulated rather than them being badly behaved or not conforming to society's expectations. Sitting still at a dinner table. That's
Mm.
another one. It's just such a nervous system governed behavior that it's so often just you're a badly behaved child, you don't have good manners. And there's so much there that we were taught, as you said, as being something that was wrong, that is misunderstood. Um, the other thing that comes up for me listening to you is this sense of how beautiful, because children cannot actually regulate their own nervous systems fully until they're 21. So the only way they learn to regulate is by mirroring us. They literally need adults to show them how to regulate. Like, it's a learned thing with us. So that's the other piece of information that's always stuck with me, is like my children cannot do this for themselves. They're looking to me to learn how to do it. And if we could see this as something that was like teaching them how to spell, teaching them how to ride a bike, teaching them how to regulate, how amazing if it was up there
Yeah.
and seen like that,
Yeah.
Um, and that there was like actual classes you could go into, like the same way we go to like birthing classes, like to learn how to support your child's regulation.
Yeah.
And of course, like you said, the exciting thing is because they're learning it from you, it is about you knowing what is regulation of your body. Like, I think for a long time, if I'd gone to, let's put it this way, 10 years ago, if I'd gone to that class, I could possibly have sat there and said, oh, well, I'm fine. That's not the reason my child is dysregulated. Like I wouldn't have even identified my dysregulation. So helping parents understand what their dysregulation is so amazing. And then to look for the dysregulation first before you are listening to what's coming out of their mouths or their behavior. And I think that's such an amazing skill for us to learn, full stop.
Yeah.
Like I've come off a number of calls recently where people have been talking about challenging dynamics in the workplace. And one of the dynamics, there were two parties alongside a senior manager, and the relationships had really disintegrated. And they'd found themselves in the middle between some really bad behavior over here and some really bad behavior over here, and totally stuck in the middle. And it was just escalating and escalating and escalating. And they were just wanting, the two parties were just wanting to keep escalating it. And the stuff that was being said from some of these parties was just awful, absolutely awful. And they were just reacting to each other's language and what was being said. But if they'd learned to, first of all, see the dysregulation that was causing that language to happen, then things would have been, I think, just really different. And we can learn that through our work with our children.
Mm.
First of all, I see there's a tantrum and they're spitting things out like, I hate you so much. And, all the stuff that gets thrown at parents when kids are dysregulated. But as soon as they're back regulated, they don't see the world in that way anymore. Like, I know that just from my own experience, I can have a dysregulated moment. My kids can have a dysregulated moment. And it's like, all kinds of stuff being, I hate you, and, you can sit and take all the offense from that, which doesn't really serve you very much. Or you can sit and go, this is what's coming from you because you're dysregulated. And can I support you now, first of all, in finding your regulation? And then what comes from you? And I've never had a moment where I've successfully managed to do that. And I'm by no means perfect. Like there's plenty of times I've missed the window. But when I have managed to do it, it's an instant, Mom, I love you so much. What would I do without you?
Mm.
I think to know that our language and our thoughts come from our state is so vital to reducing conflict in all the spaces that we are in.
Yeah. And you come back to that example you gave with two people in the workplace. Like if they were observing it, they'd probably be like this and knew the other person's side of the story, then their approaches would be so different. But when you're in that moment, dysregulated, physically, like what happens to our brain, our prefrontal cortex shuts down and we go into how do I protect myself? So I look really narrow at this situation to protect myself. And in this state with cortisol levels rushing and adrenaline and all the dysregulation happening in my body, I am literally just saying, you are the threat to me. I will fight you at any cost to keep myself safe. And so it makes perfect sense. Like you are doing the absolute right thing. War is important. Fighting is important. We need it because it protects us. But if we saw the other person's state and we saw the other person's perspective, firstly, we'd probably realize like, oh, wow, the other person feels really hard done by me. There's such a different state. If we could, as if we were watching a movie about it, we would probably see a very different experience. You'd be like, oh, well, we know what the answer to this is. Like, find your own sense of safety, find out what really is at the heart of this. You find out what it is, you have a good conversation about it, and you would move forward. So thank goodness to media as well, because we've been able to see through all the Shakespeares and all those who have come since give those same sorts of scenarios, is that it doesn't work to keep fighting each other the whole way. It doesn't result in
Mm,
peace and an answer. And I
mm,
think that's the thing with parents, is that we are taught how to ride a bike mostly. We are taught how to read and to write. So when we teach our children that, it's not unfamiliar. But we're not taught how to regulate ourselves. We're taught strategies to not be a nuisance in society. We're taught strategies to survive. And sometimes those strategies, indirectly or directly, will help our nervous systems regulate, but we're not necessarily doing it consciously. So we've learned, like, go and do sports afterwards, because releasing some of that stress puts you in a better space. Oh, we don't necessarily know that. We just know that after I do sports, after I do dancing, I'm a nicer person. It just happens. Now that I intentionally know it, I realize, like, oh, it's very important for me to go and do dancing at least once a week, because when I do that, any built up residual hormones and stress and pain and trauma that's built up in my body, that's my chance to release it. So there's an intentionality with it. So parents, no parent tries to wake up and be an asshole parent. No parent does that. No parent wants to be the poor parent. We all want to be great parents. So we're all trying to teach our kid things to help them move through this moment. And now it's an invitation to say, why don't we learn to understand that process and those patterns better? So that instead of learning random strategies and trying to offer advice that worked for us because somebody just said, go for a run, so now I tell my child to go for a run, I can actually listen to what state they're in, what their actions in that state elicit in me. How do
mm,
I find my safety in this moment, so that I can help them explore and unpack eventually, once they've managed to find their safety, what's going on? And then they evolve, they learn, they develop the strategies to help them through those difficult times.
yeah,
And we don't see our children as good and bad. We don't see behaviors as good as bad. We just see it all as information to let us know what state our kid is in, so that we can
yeah,
support them.
yeah. It's, one of the things that's coming up for me now as we start talking about this is just wanting to say it's not easy.
Mm.
It's not a straightforward thing to stay regulated when your kids are not regulated.
Mm-mm.
And I would be lying if I said I had mastered that. It is absolutely an intention and a goal to get stronger and stronger at doing that. But there is an autopilot response in me that is completely natural and human, right? Which is to say, if you are dysregulated, my body on autopilot says, oh, there's something here that's a threat, and I become dysregulated. And then, of course, it doesn't help that there's also societal pressure that says your kid shouldn't be having a meltdown in this public space. Can't you control your children? Why are they, there are etiquette rules, and, there's all this social pressure that also mounts. And I definitely find it so much easier if I'm by myself to sit and support and offer that. As soon as I feel like there's a pair of eyes, my body definitely goes into this like judgment. I'm trying to make, it's so much harder to be regulated in those.
I just want to add while you're there, because the spiral of it is so fast. I've noticed with myself, and I can feel myself dysregulated, and then I'll go and do something silly like, "Oh, your kid is so well behaved," as like that's gonna help my kid to
Yeah.
feel it. Or like it's such a, I don't even know what I'm thinking in that moment. It's like everything that comes out of your mouth in that moment where you feel the pair of eyes judging you, or whatever has led you to dysregulation, just leads to more and more and more dysregulation. It's as if we are in that moment wired to F it up.
Yeah. And I'd also say one of the reasons why I think I'm so excited about the NHS going in and sharing these tips and techniques is because I'd hope then we start to become surrounded by more people who know what it takes to help a child regulate. As I'm trying to co-regulate with them and offer that grounding support, I'm not trying to stop them crying. I'm not trying to stop them shouting. I'm literally offering them my calm so that they begin to feel me. And then eventually that begins to help them feel themselves into more of a calm state. But I'll often have people around saying, oh, it's okay, come, and trying to distract the child or stop them from crying or like sort of short circuit the process. And that's also quite challenging. So I really recognize that we're on this cusp of change that is both so exciting and so challenging. And like, wouldn't it be amazing if like by the time our kids are having kids, like 20 years down the line, that it's just commonplace knowledge that as a community of parents, you could support each other in doing it beautifully and in teaching those co-regulation practices.
Yeah. And that's what what also got me excited listening today is that there's different aspects of this where we need additional support. So I love that the NHS has come to give this. And then I realized it's all good and well to regulate myself, but I don't even know when I'm dysregulated. I'm so
Mm,
tuned out of it that I haven't what I would call for like what is dysregulated, I would have been like, oh, I'm so focused. Like I am like go, 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 go. I'm pushing. Come on, let's go. I was like, I'm in my flow. And now I look back and it's like, oh my gosh, I was so like cannot stop for anything because the minute I stop, it all falls apart. That wasn't
yeah.
regulated. I was able to pull on my resource of stamina and energy to survive, but not in a ventral, balanced way that was in excess in that moment. So that's the one thing I think is like,
Mm,
how do we like we can offer the opportunity firstly to become aware of those moments where we are in a ventral state and when we're not in a ventral state
mm,
because we're familiar with when we're not and we've
mm,
normalized it to be that it's not it's a good thing, especially if you're in that sympathetic extending push push push. That's
mm,
often done as a good thing, and it's not. I don't want to say it as a bad or a good thing, but I'd like to see it more as this is information that I am in extending,
mm.
and do I
So
want
for
to?
people, so for people who are listening and don't have maybe not necessarily listened to us before, but are really curious about this topic, we've got some lingo that I know we're really good at using. And I'm wondering if we can just break that down. So when we say as a parent you feel dysregulated or you are dysregulated, like could we just break that down for like what does that feel like in your body when you're dysregulated? So that we can maybe see if we can help people resonate with it. And I know that one of the first things that shows me I'm not regulated, and what I mean, like, I'm not grounded, I'm not calm, I'm not safe, I don't feel safe with the meltdown that's happening in front of me, is I notice there's resistance in my body. And it might sound like, oh, come on, do we have to do this again now? Or, oh, I haven't got the patience for this. Are you kidding me? You know, those are the thought patterns that are like, oh, please, no, not now. Right. Those are the signs for me that I am resisting my child being dysregulated in that moment. And that is a sign of my dysregulation. So if I don't feel safe, um, I also know that if I step away, if I run away from the situation, I don't have time for this. I'm going to go and just busy myself doing the washing. Another sign I'm not comfortable being sat with my kids' dysregulation. If I am bartering with them, um, uh, I'll make sure we do this and this and this if or you can have this or you can't have this if you continue to behave like this. Again, another sign I've lost a sense of my stability in that moment because I'm literally pandering and fawning, you know, with all of that. Have you got any other things you would add to your list?
I go totally quiet and like switch off. That's also my sign. I can't even speak to you right now. Is what's
Yeah,
going
yeah, yeah.
on out of my head.
Yeah.
because I'm so or burst into tears.
Yeah.
Not in a relate way, because I can burst into tears in like, "Oh, I feel
Being
you,
connected to someone,
and I'm
yeah.
connected." This is like, I just like, I don't have anything more in me to do this, and you have
Yeah.
made life difficult for me. That kind of
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Um, I joke about it. I notice I'm like, kids, aren't they the worst?" Or something like that. Like I somehow belittle my child in front of somebody else in that
Yeah.
moment because
Yeah.
I don't know how else to cope with this. So I bring humor. Not again, humor can be used beautifully, but I can feel the dysregulation is like a cutting down, a making myself small,
Yeah.
um, defending. Uh, and the
Yeah.
other thing I can be is become critical of other people's children or other people's parenting styles or
Yeah.
society. And like, why did teachers speak to my child like that? Like that's
Yeah.
again, it's I'm not sitting in the other side of that, which is to be in that ventral state, that balanced calm of like, oh,
Mm.
I've got space for this. Okay.
Mm.
My child is now sharing really useful information with me right now. Let me stop and listen into what's really here.
So that ventral state, just because from a lingo point of view again, like that's your safety state, right? So that's when you feel in your body like you have capacity for these meltdowns or whatever's going on. You've got a sense of, so it feels quite spacious, right?
Mm,
It feels like I've got enough room in me to handle this meltdown, to hold this meltdown for you.
mm,
And that feeling of like you feel safe, it literally means the child gets to feel a sense of safety with you in that moment. So I'm wondering, what does that ventral state, and we call it ventral because it's the ventral vagal nerve that is activated in that moment that makes you literally feel safe. Um, what does that feel like for you in those moments?
yeah, okay. I liken it to dancing. It's like there's enough time for every step.
Time. Oh, yes.
Mm,
If this meltdown goes on for 20 minutes, I'm here for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like I will just know what the answer is with that time. So there's not a panic, but instead it's like, okay, right, the wisdom is gonna flow. There's a real trust in that moment, that sense of I know we will come through this. So I'm not cluttering my thoughts. I'm just it's clear. It's like I'm open and I know the answer, exactly what I need will rock up.
Isn't that interesting? That sense of like I've got time. Because what I've definitely noticed is when I've been in that state and it does feel like I've got capacity, I've got emotional capacity for this, I've got the physical time for this, is that even if you don't, if you can give the child or the other person that sense of there's nothing more important right now than this. I have the time for this. You have the time to feel this. That the more deeply you can step into that conviction of there is time for this, the shorter that meltdown is.
Mm.
Like, I definitely see a correlation of like the less resistance I have, the more not just like being okay with it, but actually like it's almost more of a feeling of like welcoming it in. Like, come on, bring it in, bring here. I welcome this. I'm welcoming this. That combo means they regulate so much faster.
Mm. And with that welcoming, I wanted to say like there's a feeling of space. Like there
Mm,
is it's almost like there's an emptying out of all of my thoughts, all my worries, all my fears in that moment.
yeah.
And if each of those were like little balls that would take up my space, when you are in ventral, when you're in that safety state in any safety state, but just in this instance, thinking about a kid going through an overwhelming emotion, it's as if all those balls have been neatly packed away somewhere else for that moment, And
Mm,
every part of me that I've got, every energetic part of me
mm.
that I've got to offer is available to the child.
Oh, that's the most beautiful description of it. Because actually the capacity is almost like an emptying of yourself in that moment. I'm not thinking about the supper that's burning. I'm not thinking about the homework that's not getting done. I'm not thinking about how the bedtime is getting later and later and I'm going to have less personal time. Like all of the stuff that would keep you really full. That is such a beautiful image of, just for this moment, I'm going to empty myself to be a vessel that can hold you. I love that imagery. I'm going to try and take that away for my next,
Well, and
my next
like you make
moment.
these correlations with sort of but we do window of tolerance classes, and in our window of tolerance classes, we
Yeah,
empty ourselves so that we can listen with eyes and ears all over our body to the other person sharing. And we have seen it time and time again with adults that offering that to somebody else allows for a release, a healing, an opportunity for regulation to take place. So
mm.
it's so obvious that it would work for a child. But it just goes to show, and this is what I'm talking about in terms of classes or opportunities to become aware. It just goes to show that when you're in the moment and you're not totally tuned in, it can be very difficult to even be aware that you're not there
Yeah,
until
yeah,
we become deeply familiar with the space, the time, that ventral state, that safety
yeah,
state. Until we become really familiar with it, we aren't aware when we are in it or we're not in it.
yeah. It makes me kind of think about first responders or that sort of moment of if there's an emergency and that moment where like you just disregard that if something was happening, you disregard the fact you've got to get to work on time or you're supposed to be somewhere, like you would literally drop things in order to respond to that person or that situation. And I think it's got such a lovely analogy for me of in those moments where a child is dysregulated, they cannot reach out to anything themselves to support that. How beautiful in a first responder moment to kind of be like, right, everything's gone for me. I'm emptied of everything else. I'm here for you. Um, I just think that's a really lovely analogy.
Mm,
Um, and that's almost the play is can we as parents get more familiar with this balanced, grounded safety state so that we know how to move into it with more ease?
mm,
How we recognize when we're dysregulated so that we know, well, that's going to do the responding for us. Um, can we practice being with someone dysregulated and feel safe at the same time? Like, there's a lot of lovely conversation around this where the job is not to um, make someone feel the way you feel. Like you can't make them feel that way. You can't impose your state on someone else, but you can attune with them. You can feel how they're feeling. You can receive them. You can receive them. But into the image for me is it's like I don't know, like a clamshell that opens. And it's like you can come inside and like you can feel this way, but how I feel is this. I feel this safety. I'm going to surround you in this feeling of safety whilst you feel the way you feel. And there's no resistance to the way you feel. But together, you're going to start paying attention to how I feel. And that's eventually going to start reaching you. And it will eventually be something you can also feel alongside the dysregulation.
mm.
Um,
And that is, I mean, the NHS person gave the idea of like first, I think it was like first acknowledge what they're going through, then
mm,
to show your understanding of it, listen to the person, and then I think it was something around like validating the feeling and also perhaps helping them like it's totally okay to be angry but it's not okay to hit people, that sort of
yeah,
like this is
yeah,
this is the part that it needs to
yeah,
shift. And I love that that's written out, and what I'm hearing you say, and I I know this to be true from our work that we do. And what I'd like to encourage is that you don't even have to worry about having all the right words. Like that clamshell analogy you gave is just like, I see you needing to come in, and I like whatever it is, I've got capacity for that. And I
Yeah.
also with you being there and me staying here in this regulated space that I'm in,
Yeah.
and allowing you to be you and me staying grounded in that feeling helps you to find the words, because that's when I can listen to. That gives you the
Mm.
space to speak, whether verbally or energetically can speak, and then we can sometimes slowly, especially if it's new and unfamiliar, sometimes really quick. Like my kid would have tantrums for hours, and I did this, and it was possibly 5 minutes and over. And I was like, wow, it was probably even quicker than that because it was pretty instant. That's what made me realize how powerful this is, oh, it was really instant. She could feel that without me using words instantly.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to say is, because I had this lovely moment, I must have been in some kind of dysregulated moment, but like, oh, I don't even have that many opportunities to show my kid when I am dysregulated so that I can help her to work through it, because I'm perfect, obviously. And as we're having this conversation, I mean, obviously I knew there were other person, but I'm like, oh my goodness, like every single time my kid has an emotion or a moment where I cannot stay in that safety ventral state, there is my opportunity. So parents, if you're listening to this wondering, I I'm getting it wrong. I'm dysregulated when my kid's dysregulated rather than regulating them. I'm not staying in my safety state. Perfect. Because that is exactly the moment
Mm.
you go, whoa, this one is big for me too. Ooh,
Yeah.
I can feel my blood pumping. I can feel my body temperature changing. I can feel my thoughts racing.
Mm.
I've got all of that. It it's really big. And then do something for yourself to regulate, whether that's
Yeah.
breath work, whether that's drawing. Sometimes I sit and I draw, and in doing that, it just diffuses the moment to be able to then talk about it.
Mm.
Maybe it's, I know other examples I give, like blowing bubbles, doing exercise, umming, like humming,
Mm.
those kinds of things. Like do them for yourself in that moment, not for your kid. Like do it for you.
Mm.
And then you are being the best role model, because it's absolutely okay that we get
Mm.
dysregulated by our kids' dysregulation. And we can learn how to calm ourselves down in that moment, respond to ourselves in that
Mm.
moment.
Mm.
Really calm ourselves down. I'm not talking about the you need to calm
Mm.
yourself down. I'm like, oh, I can really feel the calm. I can really feel the time and the space available to me. And then after that's our child.
Actually, it's a lovely reminder to me where I've not got it quite right, where I've been like, I just need 5 minutes now, which is quite like, your fault, I need 5 minutes. I'm just going to share that as like, that's not the most regulated way to do that. And that maybe a more regulated way is like, I'm really noticing my energy and my anger is really up as well. And I just want to go and work on that. And then I'll come back to you. So it's a much more compassionate sharing of what you're experiencing. It's not a blame situation, which I've definitely been guilty of. Um, and it also, what's so lovely about it is that all we're talking about here is creating neural pathways. So it's helping our kids and ourselves begin to learn that there is a pathway back to feeling grounded and stable. I think there's this, a lot of the time, there's this sense that there's right and a wrong, that dysregulation is wrong and being regulated is right. And actually, that's not the case. We really understand now that dysregulation is natural. What's problematic is that there's no pathway back to being regulated. And so the more we can practice this for ourselves and for our kids, of like, have the meltdown and here's your pathway back. Have the meltdown and here's your pathway back. We're literally building patterns in the brain for trusting that you can experience really big emotions, and your body and your neural pathways know, and there's a route back to you feeling safe. You can go through big stuff and you can feel okay again afterwards. And that's kind of what I think as adults we're not experiencing a lot of, when we get stuck in feeling stress, feeling stress, feeling stress, and never really knowing how to come back at the end of a difficult day or the end of a difficult conversation, returning back into that natural state of being safe. So this is such wonderful exercise for building a strength and that pathway. I mean, it's also why, of course, isn't it, that heart rate variability is so closely connected with strong mental health, um, being regulated, uh, or being having a good capacity for a ventral state does not mean you stay zen the whole time. It means you leave zen, but you come back, and you leave zen and you come back. So it's high variability in your heart rate. The heart rate's going up and it's coming back down, coming up and it's coming back down. That is the sign of a healthy system. And what we're doing when we support our kids' regulation is like, yep, you've gone up, and here's how we come back down again. Like, amazing. And I love that supporting our children, which has been my route into all of our work, has such an amazing knock-on impact for our workplace conversations, our personal relationships, our families, our friends, our, how we tackle the difficult news in the world. Feel it, but come back to safety and take action from there. That's really powerful. I'm beyond excited about this.
Me too. And I just love that analogy of a pathway. I know it's been used, but I want to emphasize that idea of like when you go for a run for the first time in a place that you don't know, a 1 kilometer run can feel like it is going on forever
Yeah.
until you've done it, right? And then when you've done it and you're familiar with it, oh, easy peasy, like that's done. I know this route. And that is exactly the same thing with this practicing, is that if we never do it, and then the only time we try and bring ourselves back down is when we're in that moment, we have
Mm,
got bushes in front of us. It's like there is no clear path. We don't know when the end is. Everything about not knowing how it works adds to our own anxiety, which makes it more
mm,
difficult to move forward. But when we've
mm,
practiced it, when we've role played it, when we've done all that kind of um, development of the pathway, it becomes something that is easy to do because of its familiarity and like, oh yeah, don't worry, I know this is going to take me 5 minutes. Um, that's all I need. I can hang in there for 5 minutes. I've got this.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to celebrate every person who's been brave enough to share experiences of co-regulating in social media spaces or trainings or workshops, or because I think it's that role modeling. Like, I remember, I mean, there's a couple of things I've seen on Instagram where there's a parent offering co-regulation to a child. There was a quite a famous one that was going around. I think Survivor, the TV show, had this wonderful scenario where there was a woman who was becoming very dysregulated. There was a chap who stepped over from the opposing team who comes over to her and offers her co-regulation. And you kind of like, it's the beauty of seeing it in action. It's like, oh, that's what it looks like. It's someone, in that case, he was holding her, he was offering his regulated breath so that she would begin to follow him. And it turned out that she has autism, and his daughter had, or one of his children had autism. And so he knew what was happening and he knew how to offer her support. But seeing it in action is so, so powerful to making it familiar, making it okay. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who's put stuff out that's helped me learn from those experiences. And it's making me suddenly think that the next time, if there is one, where there is a public opportunity, I'm gonna take some of that with me to try and role model an experience that I can feel proud of for my children and for me, but that maybe hopefully offers someone an insight as to what it looks like in action.
Yeah, I will too. Thanks, Kim. Thanks everyone for listening. And please, if you've got tips that you've learned, if you've got examples or experiences that have worked or that haven't worked, and you're looking for ways to develop and evolve yourself, come share that with us. Like, we want to be part of those conversations. We want to create this. We have got the space and the time, and boy, do we have the appetite to have those conversations.
Yeah, thank you.
Want to dive in? Visit our website at theviewlooksgood.com to discover more about how you can support your nervous system in your personal space, or supporting your nervous system in the workplace, whether for yourself, your team, or the organization. On the website, you will also find a link to sign up to our newsletter and a link to join our community, where you can continue to practice in a completely judgment-free space. Now we invite you to go into the world, being unapologetically human. Enjoy.